it's Ashley, and today we are going to talk about the Healthy Food First Spring and Summer Food Box. Let's dive in. So first we are going to look at our squash and cucumber vegetables. And here, more specifically, let me show you exactly what they look like. This is our cucumber. This is our zucchini, which is considered a green squash. And we've got our yellow squash right here. So interestingly, these things can be stored inside of your refrigerator, preferably in a crisper that keeps it nice, fresh, and firm for a longer period of time. Once you are prepared to, store it away in your refrigerator, that can last for about 1 to 2 weeks. And when you are prepared to actually cook these vegetables here, you can make sure you wash them again, because I'm sure you're going to wash it before you store them in the refrigerator. And you want to cut off the stem on top of the vegetables here. And it's not to say that they're not edible, but they're probably just not going to taste as remarkable as the vegetables themselves. Next, we're going to go into the leafy greens. These leafy greens here, we've got lettuce, very colorful, bright and vibrant and crispy. And we've also got some spinach. And that looks just like this. The leafy greens are not only incredible in several different types of dishes, but they're great raw as well. And so the way you can store these vegetables is, again, in your refrigerator, preferably in a dry place like a crisper, and that keeps the leaves themselves very crispy, very firm, and fresh for whenever you're preparing to cook them. As you are storing them, you can pretty much expect to keep these for about 7 to 10 days. After that, they begin to wilt just a bit, and you can either compost it or prepare to cook it pretty quickly. And before you go into cooking them or consuming them, you want to make sure that you are cleaning them properly. So check really towards the inside of the stem for any debris that may be left over on the leafy greens. And next you want to cut off this hard fibrous root area and perhaps the stem as well. All right. So now we're going to go into a cruciferous vegetable, the broccoli. This is actually a broccoli crown, and the broccoli is delicious and prepared several different ways. Raw, roasted, steamed, you choose. And the thing about broccoli is similar to the leafy greens. You want to store this in a crisper, and this keeps the broccoli nice and firm and crisp for whenever you're ready to cook with it. Another thing that you want to do is make sure that you don't store this away in your refrigerator in a crisper for longer than 7 days. And once you're preparing to cook it, you can actually give it a quick rinse. Make sure that you are rinsing in the nooks and crannies because that's kind of where you'll find some debris stored away. You just clean that off and then proceed with cutting off this bottom portion, which typically is a bit harder than the rest of the broccoli. Now we've got our long-stemmed asparagus. This is a stem vegetable which is delicious in many different ways. I personally can eat this raw, but it's also really great sautéed as well. And one thing that you want to really remember about your asparagus is a great way to store this is in the refrigerator, keeping it cool, keeping it dry even as possible. Another way that I like to kind of store the asparagus in the refrigerator is in a jar of water, just a very little bit. That keeps it very crisp, and it also keeps it firm so that it's breakable once you're preparing to cook it. The storage life on something like this is about 7 to 10 days. And after that, you want to prepare to cook this right away. Of course, as you are preparing to cook it, the only thing that you really need to do is just cut off the hard part here. And a trick that I can show you is by simply taking the asparagus, and wherever it is not bending, or wherever it is, the point of bending is where you can just simply snap it off. And what that means is that this is going to be a bit more fibrous to eat than the rest of the vegetable. Next, we've got a southern delicacy that is not necessarily exclusive to the South, and that is the okra. I love okra. Again, this can be prepared many different ways, but a good way to store this okra is either on the countertop, or, it's best in the refrigerator because that kind of prolongs the shelf life. You're looking at about 2 or 3 days that you can keep this okra fresh. And when you are ready to prepare this in a meal, you simply just take off the top where the okra was growing on the plant, and then you can just gobble it up and throw it in your mouth, or you can slice it and prepare it in a pan, or roasted or sauteed. Before you prepare it, of course, you want to make sure that you are cleaning this. Just give it a nice little rinse and rub on the outside, and you're good to go. All right. Now we've got our tomatoes. As you may know, there are many different things that you can do with the tomato. But one thing that makes this so special for the spring and the summer months is that when they're picked and peak ripeness, their flavor is remarkable. And one way that you can store tomatoes is either on the countertop at room temperature. That's going to speed up the ripening process just a bit. Or you can store it in a paper bag inside of the refrigerator for just a shorter amount of time. I recommend storing it on the shelf because it keeps it nice and ambient and fresh and flavorful. And lastly, we've got the eggplant. This big, beautiful purple vegetable that can be cooked a variety of ways. One thing that I like to, remember when storing the eggplant is this goes well in a crisper as well. Also, you can stick this on your countertop as well, but if you want to really stretch that shelf life, sticking it in a crisper in your refrigerator will really take this a long way. And you're looking to keep this for about 4 or 5 days on the countertop. But if you stick it in the refrigerator, you're looking at up to 3 weeks of saving this plant. Good luck with trying to save it because you're going to want to eat it right away. But before you prepare to eat it, whether that's through roasting or steaming or sticking it in with some other vegetables that you see here, it's best to just take off this little this stem area right here on the top, and then you can proceed with slicing it for your meal. So that covers everything that is in the spring and summer food box. I look forward to showing you guys how to prepare this in a meal.